Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the show. That's right. Tyrone Woods, former GRS staff officer that was killed September 12th of 2012 on a rooftop in Benghazi, Libya with his buddy Glenn Doherty. They died together on the same rooftop. Tragic circumstance that initiated September 11th of 2012, where 4 total Americans were killed, including an ambassador to Libya, Ambassador Stevens. Now, I have some crossover operationally with both the nature of my deployment in that time period and the organization that I work for, as well as my subsequent professional career after the fact. But let me go into a little bit about the vehicle, the truck. About 6-7 months ago, I got contacted by a gentleman who said, "Hey, I have Tyrone Woods' truck. I was able to buy it from him before this deployment that took place in 2012. And it's been in his family for a while. And his son got in an accident in that truck." This is what the truck looked like before the accident. This is what the truck looked like after the accident. And so he said, "Hey, I don't know if you or anyone you know would be interested in this truck, but they're likely to total it out, and I would sell it to you if you wanted it." And I said, "No doubt, I want it." And I don't even know what I'm going to do with the truck. In fact, that's one of the reasons I'm doing this video, because I want your input. I want your comments. I want your input on what you think I should do with this truck. Now, here's my feeling on it. When I see an old truck that belonged to a member of the military or my old job in GRS, I think a few things. One, I think about my childhood and cleaning my dad's Z28 Camaro, which he was so proud of, and spending a lot of time waxing it until there was no more paint on it, or at least no more clear coat on it. And then going to the beach with my dad and having memories as a little kid sitting on his lap, driving on the beach in Daytona Beach, Florida. So a lot of memories tethered to those vehicles. In my own way, with my own children, for example, my Vanagon Synchro, which is being repainted now. We stripped out, me and my kids stripped out all the interior components, and it was a family project. I have this old 1983 911 SC Super Carrera that I want to build with the kids. Why? Because I think there's something significant about certain material things. Watches, knives, hatchets, vehicles. If your grandfather gave you a watch that you inherited after his passing, every time you look at that watch, you might think about your grandfather and the memories that you guys shared. Same thing with my kids. I hope when I'm dead and gone that they drive the vehicles that we helped with each other build, and every time they start it, every time they smell the interior of the vehicle, they think about their old man. And that's what I want. So that's what I thought about this truck. I could never see that truck scrapped because I knew the men who served with him. And I also think there's an opportunity there, which again, I am not definitively set on any certain path, but I'm going to go pick up the truck. I'm going to talk about Tyrone Woods, Ty, and Glenn, and these heroes, because that's a way that we allow these men who sacrifice it all, where the Secretary of State was saying, what difference does it make? It makes all the difference to continue to allow their names and memories to live on forever. We should always be talking about these guys, no matter what. So my connection point is prior to this deployment that took place for me, I think into September, early October, I was supposed to deploy with me and a couple of my guys. I did deploy to start up a 1208 program, a congressionally mandated counterterrorism program. On September 11th, me and another team sergeant from the Africa Crisis Response Force group or company were in the Delta Force compound at Fort Bragg, supposed to do a key leader engagement with men on the ground in Libya and do a brief with Ambassador Stevens. When we got in that morning, we got briefed on what was going on. And so we stayed in the compound a couple more days, then redeployed back to our base at Fort Carson. And I was told to accelerate my timeline for deployment, and we did that. We packed up our pallets, our ISU 90s, and got set off for me and a few dudes to go stand up that program. And that program had been designated as a mission, I believe, 6 or so months before that. The intel briefings that we were getting from our internal resource and intelligence, our 18 Fox, was that this is a very bad place with a lot of things increasing in risk to not only American forces, but international forces. There were ambushes, there were bombs, all kinds of shenanigans going on, which is funny because pre, during, and even post, politically, you would have thought it was a rosy picture. But we knew about the risk prior to September 11th and 12th happening before we even set foot in the continent of Africa, in the country of Libya. A whole bunch of shenanigans and power plays going on between militias and also AQIM, Al-Qaeda Islamic Maghreb. So we had to be careful. So we forward deploy, we get there, get on the ground, and I talk to 2 members of U.S. Army Special Operations Command, which were on the operation to respond to Benghazi. We're on the rooftop with Glenn and Tyrone Woods where they lost their lives, and I got briefed by them about all the things that transpired. Here's one thing I'll say. The movie 13 Hours in Benghazi, I thought was a decent representation of the job that GRS does. I didn't do that until I did the job, but I did the job, saw the movie, and was like, oh, that's pretty accurate. Here's what I didn't like. The depiction of the USASOC guys. Those guys earned both the Distinguished Service Cross and the Navy Cross, the second highest award for valor. In my opinion, they were poorly depicted because I know there was beef between the GRS guys and the USASOC guys, at least a couple of the GRS guys. If it weren't for the actions of both GRS, and they were recognized for that, but also those 2 members of USASOC, it would be a very different type of situation that we would be referencing in history. The worst case would have been they would have been overwhelmed and taken hostage. Those 2 men deserve the Medal of Honor. Now, I think operationally, getting the Medal of Honor in that organization, I know this for a fact, would derail their operational career path. But it's been long enough, I believe, and it's my opinion based on seeing it unfold on ISR and getting the in-briefs in the compound, deploying for a 1208 counterterrorism program, interoperating with that organization downrange, and understanding all the nuances and details that I've even testified to members of Congress about. I believe those men deserve the Medal of Honor. And I'm just going to put that out there. They do deserve it. I hope somebody in Pete Hegseth's office is seeing this and can review it, because there is no doubt, based on the unknowns, the extreme circumstances, and the situation they were handed, what they did in responding from Tripoli to Benghazi is deserving of the Medal of Honor. Enough about that. So the men that were members of GRS on the ground in Tripoli recruited me for the CIA. I was going for the paramilitary operations route, which is my primary plan. My contingency plan was GRS. I had just completed my degree, my bachelor's degree, that year, which is the prerequisite to apply for Ground Branch, which is called Paramilitary Operations Officer, PMO, or PMO. That position is a full-time staffer position, and the prerequisite is you have to have the military experience and the degree and the good old boy handshake. So I went through the process to do that. When I came back from that deployment, which lasted 6 months, I was very frustrated at the U.S. government, the politicians, that said, what difference does it make? And the Army. So I transitioned from active duty to the reserve component. Had finished my team sergeant time already, so it's not like I could take another team. The next progressive path for me to become a sergeant major on active duty would be they would want me to become, they told me, the battalion sergeant major, Mike Pritz is his name, good dude, really good dude, told me that, hey man, you can only get 2 years of team time. We want you to be a HSC first sergeant so you could make sergeant major. And I said, I'm not really interested in making sergeant major. I mean, I want to be operational. If you can give me more team time, I'll stay in. If not, I'm out. And I was out because they couldn't offer that. Because there was a lot of people at the top of the funnel, and it was because they had at the time a bonus of $150K, and it left a lot of E8s and E9s and not enough billets. So I said, fine, I'm stepping aside. I went through the ground branch assessment process and was getting ready to cross over. I got back from that rotation and immediately out-processed the military. Did so in 2 weeks. I did testify to members of Congress in that period of time and then went over to ground branch. But then the sequester happened, which was a stop freeze on all future hiring, and also nothing's being moved budget-wise in the government. Basically a government shutdown. They told me at the time, because there's a pipeline associated with the contracting route for the ground branch, that I could do GRS and contract with them and immediately deploy, because all I had to do is go to validation. All I had to do. Validation was tough. Vetting was tough. It wasn't easy. It's where I met Evan Hafer for the first time on a range as he assessed me in vetting. I think we lost, out of the 15 guys, we lost probably half of the guys, and all profound backgrounds and experiences, all senior guys, and we lost about half. Got through that process and deployed, and coming full circle, GRS is the best job I ever had. Hands down, best job I ever had. Some of the best guys I've ever met. The standards were super high, and the rotations were meaningful enough for me to feel like operationally I was invested and involved in something that had a grander purpose. And purpose is a huge component to it. And the pay's not bad. I think in a 60-day rotation, I made what I made probably after taxes in a non-rotational year, meaning a non-combat rotational year, which I never had, but as my base pay as an E8. So at the same time I was contracting, I was a reserve 19th Special Forces Group Sergeant Major, and it was a perfect blend. Not conducive to starting a family, but conducive to living an operational life. I was very satisfied by that. The depiction in 13 Hours in Benghazi depicts the role of GRS in a very good light, but also it's really close to the exact way that you operate. Tyrone Woods and Glenn Doherty that were killed on that rooftop that night, September 12th, late into the night, in the early morning hours of September 12th. They both lost their life on that rooftop by a mortar round that impacted. And both of them served together as Navy SEALs and were friends. Now, Ty, prior to this, sold this gentleman this truck. And last night, I was told that it had been cleared through the insurance and was ready to be picked up. And that's the question. The question is, what do we do with this truck? Which is why I'm asking you guys. Before we get into that, I want to thank the sponsor of this show, Wasatch Wagyu, a local business here in Heber Valley that makes the best meat sticks on the planet. They're made of Wagyu beef, which is better than regular beef. It's like super high-end beef, my favorite kind of beef. And they do different versions of this to include a blend of heart, Wagyu beef heart, 40% Wagyu beef heart, and Wagyu beef. And I'm all about supporting local businesses that are supporting this channel. And if you want to do the same, I'll link down below a 20% discount code for purchases online because you can get a cylindrical beef stick ordered to your home. And we know you like cylindrical beef sticks in your mailbox. Who doesn't? Who's not into that? So I'm asking the question, what do we do with this truck? Do we build it out? Look, trust me on this, I'm not going to build it out and do some crazy candy flaked paint job on it. I want to keep it as OG and as original as possible, but with things like, I don't know, Carly suspension, awesome wheels and tires, a redone interior, maybe even tridents on the seats, some kind of memorial to the men that lost their lives that night in some profound way blended into the build. Why is this so important for me? Well, I think as a content piece and as a project, it's going to bring more awareness to these heroes that we've lost over time in these specific situations and keep their legacy alive. Also, there's an opportunity for us to sell this potentially for a profit and then donate those profits to nonprofits, helping family members that have been left behind by these amazing men and women who have lost their lives. I'm interested in your feedback. I'm also going to go into the underground episode on my Patreon to talk details, especially operational details about specifics that I know about for my underground crowd at my Patreon. It's absolutely free. It's linked down below. And if you want to support the channel, you can by subscribing to one of the tiers. I appreciate you guys. Hope you have a blessed day. Also, if you're interested, I kicked up Mike Force Podcast again. It's back. If you guys go to the links down below, I just dropped an episode this morning about resilience and about moving forward in life. Until next time, peace out, guys.